My dad disappeared for 5 years, came back rich and armed, hunted by the cartel. Now we're hiding in fear. Hi everyone, before we start today's video I need your help, and subscribing and liking is one of the best ways to help us. It's fast, free and allows us to keep bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel evolving collectively. Thank you very much. Now let's start the video. I was 12 when my dad disappeared. One morning he said he was going to grab coffee and never came back. No note, no call, no trace. My mom called the police after a few hours, then again the next day, then every day for a week, until they told her maybe he just left on purpose. But that didn't make sense. He had no reason to run, at least not one we knew of. We searched everywhere, called every hospital, every friend, every place he might have gone, but nothing. It was like he had been erased, and as the months passed we slowly started to believe the worst. Maybe he died, maybe something happened, maybe we would never know. I remember my mom crying on the kitchen floor holding his old jacket like it could bring him back, and I just stood there not knowing what to do, not knowing how to fix something that felt unreal. The first year was the hardest, then came the second, then the third, and by the fifth we had stopped talking about him. We boxed up his things, changed the locks and moved on, or at least tried to. I was 17 when it happened, 5 years to the day since he vanished. I came home from school and saw a black SUV parked in front of our house, tinted windows, engine still running, and for a second I thought someone was lost, until the door opened and a man stepped out wearing sunglasses, a gold chain and a jacket that didn't match his face, but I recognized him. I knew that walk, I knew that jawline, even after all this time. It was him, my father, and he looked nothing like the man who disappeared. He didn't smile when he saw me, didn't run over or cry or hug me. He just stared for a moment, then gave a small nod and said, "You've grown." Like he'd only been gone a weekend and not 5 full years, and I didn't know whether to scream or hug him or ask where the hell he'd been. My mom came running when she heard the door slam, and the moment she saw him she froze, her face drained of color, and for a few seconds we all just stood there like ghosts in our own house, like no one could believe this was real. He said nothing else, just walked past us straight inside like it was still his home, dragging 2 huge black bags behind him, and then without a word he locked himself in the guest room. We didn't know what to say. We sat in the living room listening to the sound of zippers and thuds and drawers opening, then silence. Eventually I got up and crept down the hallway. I peeked through the barely opened door and saw stacks of cash spread out across the bed, rolls and bricks of money wrapped in bands, more than I'd ever seen in my life, and next to them a handgun, a sleek black one lying flat on the sheets like it belonged there. He came out hours later looking dead serious. He walked through the house slowly like he was scanning the walls, the windows, the ceiling, then he turned to us and said, "No visitors, no phones, no social media. Starting now we're going dark and I need you to trust me." That was when I knew something was really, really wrong. The next morning I woke up to the sound of drilling. At first I thought something broke, but when I walked out I saw him on a ladder installing a security camera in the hallway, the kind you only see in banks or government buildings. By the end of the day he had mounted 6 of them inside and another 5 outside, all pointing at the doors, windows, driveway, even the backyard. Then he went around the house with a roll of reflective tape and blackout curtains. He covered the windows, sealed the cracks in the garage, blocked off the mail slot. He made us turn off our phones and put them in a metal box, said something about signal interference and tracking, and when I asked why he just looked at me and said, "Don't ask questions you don't want answers to." He stopped sleeping in his room and started crashing on the couch with a pistol on his chest. I once got up to grab water in the middle of the night and found him wide awake, staring at the TV that wasn't even on, just holding the gun in one hand and a burner phone in the other, breathing slow like he was waiting for something to happen. Every time a car drove by he froze. Every time the doorbell rang he'd point the gun toward it like he was expecting it to blow off the hinges. My mom begged him to talk to her, to tell her where he'd been, what was going on, but he kept repeating the same thing: "I'm keeping you safe, I can't tell you more, you don't want to know." But I did want to know, and soon I was about to find out more than I ever wished I had. It happened late one night when I couldn't sleep. I went to grab a blanket from the guest room and noticed his laptop was left open on the desk screen, still glowing like it was waiting for someone to see it. He never left anything unlocked. He was obsessive about that, so maybe part of me thought it was a mistake, or maybe part of me wanted it to be. I stood there staring at the screen for what felt like forever, and then I sat down and moved the mouse just enough for it to wake up. There was a folder on the desktop labeled Family, and I clicked it thinking it would be photos of us from before he disappeared, something warm, something normal, something I missed. But what I saw wasn't us. It was a series of pictures taken in places I didn't recognize: desert towns, rundown bars, parking lots full of blacked-out SUVs, and in each photo he stood beside men I had never seen before: tall guys with sunglasses, gold chains, tattoos, guns clearly visible in some shots, and in one of the photos they were standing in front of a wall spray-painted with a name I had heard before but only in news reports and documentaries. Sinaloa. My stomach dropped and for a second I forgot how to breathe. I clicked through more and it only got worse: pictures of meetings, bundles of cash, crates full of who knows what, even a video file I didn't dare open. My hands were shaking. I closed the laptop and stepped away as quietly as I could, but something told me it was already too late, and when I turned around he was standing right there in the doorway watching me. We didn't say a word for a few seconds, just stared at each other in that heavy silence. My heart was racing but his face was unreadable: no anger, no shock, just cold calculation, like he was deciding something. Then he stepped inside, closed the door slowly and said in a voice lower than I'd ever heard him use, "Sit down." I did without arguing, my legs moving before my brain could catch up. He walked over, shut the laptop and placed his hand on top of it like he was shielding it from me. Then he leaned forward and whispered, "I told you not to ask questions you don't want answers to," and this time it didn't sound like a warning, it sounded like a threat. Then he took the laptop with him and locked it in the basement. I heard the metal click of the deadbolt echo through the floor, and when he came back up he was breathing hard like he had just run a mile. He grabbed the phones, the cameras, the router, everything electronic, and shoved them into a duffel bag and told us to pack a bag each. We were leaving in an hour. My mom asked where and he snapped, "Not here," then walked into the kitchen, pulled a drawer and loaded 3 magazines into the pistol right there on the table like it was breakfast, and said, "Nobody says a word to anyone, no friends, no neighbors, no goodbyes. If they find us, I don't care how old you are, we're all gone, you hear me?" That was the first time I saw my mom cry in front of him, and the first time I realized this wasn't my dad anymore, this was someone else, someone dangerous. He drove all night never saying where we were going, just watching the rearview mirror like it was a threat and gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. The SUV was packed with gear, backup phones, radios, burner wallets, a second pistol in the glove box, everything labeled, everything planned. This wasn't panic, this was routine. We stopped at a cabin in the middle of nowhere surrounded by trees and nothing else. He said we'd be safe here, that no one knew this place existed, and that if anyone ever showed up we were to run out the back through the woods no matter what happened behind us. His voice didn't shake when he said that, not even a little. He blocked the windows again, installed 2 more cameras and dug a hole behind the house where he buried a second laptop wrapped in foil inside a waterproof case. I watched him from the porch wondering what kind of life he had lived these past 5 years that made him think this was normal, and worse, I wondered how long before this became normal to me too. We stayed there for weeks, maybe months, I lost track of time. He made us practice drills, what to do if someone came, what to grab, where to run. He made my mom learn how to shoot and made me memorize license plates of cars that passed by even if we only saw them once. He never told us what he did, but every night he paced like a man being hunted, and every time the wind blew too hard against the windows he reached for the gun. I started waking up at night to the sound of him whispering to himself in the hallway, not words, just broken fragments, like he was arguing with someone who wasn't there. At first I told myself he was protecting us, that everything he was doing was to keep us safe, but the longer we stayed the harder it was to believe that he didn't let us leave the cabin, not even for a walk. He nailed the back door shut, said it was compromised. He started boarding the windows from the inside and slept with the gun under his pillow every single night. We ate canned food, boiled rainwater, and kept the lights off after sunset. He said it was safer that way, and any time my mom tried to argue he'd shut her down with just a stare, not yelling, just quiet, cold control, like he was always 2 steps from snapping. I started writing things down just to keep track of time, days, weeks, little details, so I wouldn't forget who I was outside this place. One night I heard shouting from the woods. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, but when I looked through the slits in the boarded window I didn't see anyone. Then I realized it was him. He was outside arguing with someone who wasn't there, pacing in the dark, yelling into the trees, calling out names in Spanish, names I didn't recognize, names that made my stomach twist. The next morning I asked him who he was talking to. He looked at me for a long time and said nobody and walked away, but that night he burned all the clothes he had worn that day in a metal barrel behind the cabin and stared into the fire for over an hour. That's when I stopped believing we were hiding from something and started believing we were hiding with something. I waited until he passed out on the couch, pistol still in his hand, breathing heavy like a man who hadn't truly slept in years. I slipped past him, careful not to make a sound, and went to the back room where he kept the emergency bags under the floorboards. I knew there was something more down there. He was too careful, too paranoid for it to be just supplies. I pulled everything out slowly, and there it was, wrapped in foil and duct tape. A second laptop, the one he had buried months ago but must have dug back up when he thought we weren't looking. I peeled it open and turned it on, half expecting it to be password locked, but it wasn't. The screen loaded straight into a series of video files and emails, mostly in Spanish, with timestamp logs, payments, transfers, locations, routes. I didn't understand all of it, but I understood enough. There were faces I'd seen on news reports, names I'd heard in headlines, messages about deliveries, borders, fake IDs, and something that made my stomach drop. There was a message marked with a red exclamation point forwarded from someone named El Tiburon. It said the deal was off, that too many people had died, and that my dad had taken something that didn't belong to him. The last line said, "Tell him we're coming." I shut the laptop and almost dropped it from how hard my hands were shaking. I finally understood why we were hiding, not from the police, not from the media, but from the people he used to work with and now probably betrayed. And they weren't going to stop until they found him. I didn't tell him what I found. I couldn't. I didn't know how he'd react. I didn't know if he'd snap or disappear again, or worse. I just waited and watched and hoped that maybe I was wrong, that maybe the message was old, maybe they weren't really coming. Then the front camera picked something up. It was early morning, the kind of still where even the birds don't make a sound. I was checking the feed out of habit and saw a black SUV parked halfway down the dirt road, tinted windows, engine running, nothing else visible, just sitting there like it had been waiting for hours. I ran to my mom, showed her the screen. She froze, then whispered, "Don't show him," but it was too late. He had already seen us standing there. He walked in, grabbed the laptop, stared at the screen for less than a second, and said, "Go pack now, 10 minutes. We didn't argue, we didn't ask questions, we just moved. He pulled cash from a safe he'd bolted under the floorboard, stuffed a bag with burner phones, IDs, passports, everything ready, like he'd known this day would come. Then he reached for something I hadn't seen before, a larger gun wrapped in a towel, and loaded it in front of us without saying a word. I asked him who they were, if they were cartel, if they were here for him, and he just looked at me and said, "No, they're here for all of us." He didn't drive, we did. He gave my mom the keys, told her the route, told her where to stop and when not to look back, and then he looked at me, and for the first time since he came back he smiled, but it wasn't joy, it was resignation. It was the kind of smile someone gives when they know the ending and just want you to have something to remember. He handed me the drive with everything on it, documents, recordings, photos, money trail, accounts, every proof of what he did and who he did it for, and said, "If anything ever happens to me, you'll know the truth." Then he told us to leave. We didn't want to. I begged him. I said we could run together, hide again, start over, but he shook his head, said, "If I run they'll follow, if I stay they'll stop here." It was the last time I saw him. We drove all day across states, through cities. I barely remembered stopping, only when the gas light forced us to, and even then we didn't speak, we just kept going until we couldn't anymore. 2 weeks later a news report came out about a cabin in the woods burned down, no survivors, no identities confirmed, the bodies were never shown, and no arrests were made. I don't know if it was him, I don't know if he made it out. All I know is that since then no one's come for us. And every time I hear tires outside or see a black SUV pass by, I wonder if it's over or if this is just another beginning.